The morning sun rose over New Haven Colony like it did every other day. Ji-won Kim stood at her office window, watching the children walk to school. She smiled. This was why she had left Earth. This peaceful frontier world where kids could grow up safe and happy. Ji-won was the colony administrator. She'd have been a soldier once, fought in wars most colonists never heard about. But that was behind her now. For 5 years, she had protected this small settlement of 3,000 humans on Arcadia 7. No battles. No death. Just farming, building, and raising families. Her communicator buzzed. It was Hyan Park, the security chief. Ji-won, the Vrellan delegation is here. They want to visit the school today. Ji-won frowned. The Vrellan were an insect-like species. They stood on 6 legs, had 4 arms, and their faces looked like a mantis mixed with something from a nightmare. But they had been peaceful neighbors for 2 years. They traded technology for human crops. They asked questions about human culture. They seemed curious, not dangerous. Did they say why? Ji-won asked. They want to study how human children learn. Scientific research, they said. Ji-won thought about it. The Vrellan had never asked for anything strange before. This seemed innocent enough. Fine, but you escort them personally. Don't let them go anywhere without supervision. Understood. At the school, teacher Mai Choi was preparing her classroom. She taught the youngest children, ages 4 to 8. 23 students sat at their desks, drawing pictures and playing learning games. Mai loved her job. These kids were bright, curious, and full of life. The door opened. Hyan entered with 3 Vrellan delegates. Their legs clicked on the floor. Their compound eyes reflected the classroom lights in strange patterns. Teacher Mai, Hyan said, his voice tight. Our guests would like to observe your class. Mai smiled politely, though the Vrellan made her uncomfortable. Of course. Children, we have visitors today. Please say hello. The children looked up. Some waved. Others stared with wide eyes at the alien creatures. Little Erin, only 7 years old, whispered to her friend. They look scary. The Vrellan delegates stood at the back of the room. They watched silently as Mai taught a lesson about Earth's history. The children answered questions, laughed at jokes, and worked on their tablets. One Vrellan moved closer to the children. Hyan stepped forward. Please maintain your distance. The Vrellan clicked its mandibles. We mean no harm. We simply wish to observe more closely. Hyan's hand moved to his weapon, but he didn't draw it. You can see fine from where you are. For an hour, the observation continued. Then, the Vrellan thanked Mai and left. Hyan escorted them back to their shuttle. He watched them fly away, back to their ship in orbit. Something felt wrong. Hyan couldn't explain it. He just knew. He returned to the school to check on Mai. She was fine, teaching as always. The children were happy. Everything seemed normal. But it wasn't. The next morning, the Vrellan returned. This time, there were 12 of them. They landed directly at the school, not at the colony's main gate. Ji-won's communicator exploded with alerts. Unauthorized landing. Vrellan ship at the education center. Ji-won ran. Hyan was already there, his weapon drawn. But he was frozen in place, his body rigid like a statue. The Vrellan had deployed some kind of field. Every adult in the school stood motionless, unable to move, unable to speak. Only their eyes could move, filled with terror. The children screamed. The Vrellan moved quickly, grabbing them with their 4 arms. Mai tried to fight, but the field held her tight. She could only watch as the aliens took her students one by one. 23 children, all of them crying, calling for help. Erin struggled in a Vrellan's grip. Let me go. I want my mom. The aliens said nothing. They carried the children to their shuttle. Mireille went with them, still frozen but conscious. She would not let her students face this alone. The shuttle lifted off. The field deactivated. Hyan fell to his knees, gasping. Ji-won arrived seconds later, just in time to see the Vrellan ship entering orbit. "No," Ji-won whispered. "No, no, no." She grabbed her communicator. "All security forces, intercept that ship. Do not let them leave orbit." But the colony had no warships. Only a few patrol craft with light weapons. The Vrellan vessel's shields absorbed their fire like raindrops. Within minutes, it jumped to faster than light speed and vanished. The children were gone. Ji-won stood in the empty classroom. Small desks. Drawings on the walls. Toys scattered on the floor. One of Erin's shoes lay on its side where she had been taken. Hyan entered behind her. His face was stone. They left a message. Ji-won turned. "Show me." The holographic display activated. A Vrellan appeared, its mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. "Humans of New Haven, we have taken your young ones for research purposes. Our scientists have determined that adult humans are too aggressive and dangerous to integrate into civilized society. However, your children may prove malleable. We will reshape their minds, teaching them proper obedience and loyalty to the Vrellan Consortium. In 10 years, we will return them to you, properly educated and useful. Do not attempt rescue. Do not resist. Accept this as the price of coexistence with superior species." The message ended. Ji-won stared at the empty space where the hologram had been. Her hand shook. Not with fear, with rage. "Send a priority distress signal," she said quietly. "Maximum power. Every channel. Every frequency." "To who?" Hyan asked. Ji-won looked at him. Her eyes were cold. "To everyone. To Earth. To every human military base within 100 light years. To every ship, every station, every colony." "What do we tell them?" Ji-won's voice was ice. "Tell them that aliens have taken our children. Tell them exactly what the Vrellan said. Tell them everything." Hyan paused. "Ji-won, you know what will happen. Once Earth hears this, once the military hears this, I know exactly what will happen. It will mean war. Total war." Ji-won walked to Erin's shoe. She picked it up, holding it gently. "They took our children, Hyan. They took babies and said they would break their minds. They said they would make them slaves." She looked at him. "So yes, it means war. Send the message." Hyan nodded. He activated the emergency beacon, the one every colony had but hoped never to use. The distress signal screamed across space at faster than light speed, carrying a simple message: human children, taken by hostile aliens, Vrellan Consortium. Immediate military response required. This is not a drill. The message repeated, over and over, spreading through human space like wildfire. In her office, Ji-won sat alone. She held Erin's shoe in her hands. Somewhere out there, 23 children were terrified and alone. Mireille was with them, trying to comfort them, trying to be brave. Ji-won had been a soldier. She had seen war. She knew what humans were capable of when pushed. The Vrellan had just pushed harder than anyone had ever pushed before. They had harmed human children. Ji-won looked up at the stars. "You have no idea what you've done," she whispered. "But you will learn. God help you. You will learn." The distress signal continued broadcasting, and across human space, people began to receive it. The distress signal reached Earth 17 hours after transmission. It arrived in the middle of the night, but night didn't matter anymore. Admiral Taiwan Lee was sleeping when his personal communicator screamed the emergency tone. He was awake instantly, reading the message before his feet hit the floor. His face went pale. "No," he breathed. Then louder, "No." Within minutes, he was in the command center. Other officers rushed in, still putting on their uniforms. Everyone had received the same alert. "Confirm the message," Taiwan ordered. "Confirmed, sir," a young lieutenant said. Her hand shook as she worked the console. New Haven Colony, Arcadia 7. 23 children, ages 4 to 14. One adult teacher. Taken by Vrellan forces. The Vrellan claim the children will be subjected to behavioral modification experiments. The room went silent. Every officer stood frozen, processing what they had just heard. Taiwan's jaw tightened. Behavioral modification. They're going to break children's minds. "Sir, the Vrellan message says they'll return them in 10 years after proper education, and I don't care what their message says." Taiwan's fist slammed on the console. "They took human children. That's all that matters." He took a breath, forcing himself calm. "Contact Fleet Command. Contact every base, every ship, every station. Full mobilization. Everyone, everything, now." "Sir, that's unprecedented. We've never mobilized the entire military for. Do it." Taiwan's voice was cold. "And get me a direct line to Earth government. The president needs to hear this personally." Across Earth, alarms began to sound. Military bases activated. Ships prepared for launch. Soldiers reported for duty without being called. They all knew. The news was everywhere. Aliens had taken human children. Dr. Sung-Mi-Han sat in her laboratory, watching the news feeds. She was a xenobiologist, had spent her entire career studying alien life. She had always advocated for peaceful contact, for understanding, for cooperation between species. Now she watched footage from New Haven. Security cameras had caught everything. The Vrellan grabbing children. Little Erin screaming for her mother. The shuttle lifting off with its cargo of terrified kids. Summi's hands clenched. Her communicator rang. "Dr. Han, this is Fleet Command. We need you immediately." "For what?" "We need weapons. Biological weapons. Specifically designed for Vrellan physiology." "Can you do it?" Summi had always said no to such requests. Always refused to weaponize her knowledge. But now she thought of Aaron's face on that video. 7 years old and screaming. "Yes," Summi said. "I can do it. How long will you need?" "Give me 3 days. I'll give you something that will kill every Vrellan it touches." She meant it. Commander Dahao Yun sat with his special operations team. 300 of the most dangerous humans alive. They had been watching the same footage over and over. "We're going in," Dahao said. It wasn't a question. His second-in-command, a scarred woman named Borm, nodded. "When?" "As soon as we know where they are. Intel is working on it now. The Vrellan have those children on a research ship. Heavy shields. Probably guards everywhere." Daho's smile was grim. "I don't care if it's protected by 1,000 guards and the shield of God himself. We're bringing those kids home." Every operator in the room nodded. They had all volunteered before being asked. Not one of them had hesitated. Director Yoonji Nam ran human intelligence operations. Within hours of the distress signal, she had activated every spy, every informant, every surveillance system humanity possessed. "I want to know everything about the Vrellan," she told her analysts. "Every world they control, every ship they own, every government official, every military installation, population centers, power grids, food supplies, everything." "Director, that's 14 star systems. It will take weeks to... You have 48 hours. The analysts worked without sleep. Information poured in from 1,000 sources. Humans who had traded with the Vrellan, automated probes that had passed through their space, intercepted communications, hacked databases. The picture became clear. The Vrellan consortium was large, powerful, millions of citizens, thousands of warships. But Yunji didn't care about their strength. She cared about their locations, because you couldn't protect what you couldn't hide. On the news networks, human commentators debated. Is war really justified? The children haven't been harmed yet. Maybe we can negotiate. But they were alone in that opinion. Public sentiment was absolute. Save the children. Whatever it takes. Protests erupted outside alien embassies. Every species with diplomatic ties to humanity suddenly found themselves surrounded by angry crowds. Make them give back our children. The Galactic Council tried to intervene. They sent a message to Earth government. We understand your distress, but we urge restraint. The Vrellan are a respected member of the galactic community. Surely this can be resolved through dialogue. Earth's response was simple. The Vrellan have 72 hours to return the children unharmed. After that, we will resolve this our own way. And if they refuse, then there will be no more Vrellan. The Galactic Council representatives looked at each other. You can't be serious. You would go to war over this? War? Earth's ambassador stood. No. War implies the enemy has a chance. What we will do is extermination. The representatives were shocked. You would commit genocide? Over children who haven't even been harmed? They were taken. They were threatened. That is harm enough. Return them within 72 hours, or the Vrellan species ends. This is not a negotiation. The Galactic Council tried to contact the Vrellan directly. Return the humans immediately. They are serious. The Vrellan laughed. Literally laughed. Humans are emotional and weak. They have a few hundred ships. We have thousands. Let them come. We will teach them the price of threatening the Vrellan consortium. They didn't understand. None of the alien species understood. Humans were not like them. On military bases across human space, ships prepared for launch. Admiral Taiwan assembled his fleet. 847 warships. The largest human armada ever created. But they weren't preparing for war. They were preparing for extinction. In her laboratory, Dr. Sunmi worked without stopping. She designed viruses that would target Vrellan DNA specifically. Proteins that would cause their nervous systems to shut down. Nanites that would consume their technology. Her assistants watched her with concern. Doctor, you haven't slept in 2 days. The children haven't slept either, Sunmi replied. They're in cells right now, terrified. So I don't get to sleep until they're safe. She returned to her work. Commander Daeho and his team trained. They practiced breaching ships, rescuing hostages, operating in zero gravity. Every scenario. Every possibility. What if some of the children are injured? Someone asked. Then we carry them out, Daeho said. What if we're outnumbered 10-1? Then we fight through all 10. What if the Vrellan threaten to kill the children if we attack? Daeho's face hardened. Then we kill the Vrellan before they can act on that threat. Speed, precision, overwhelming violence. We go in fast, we hit hard, and we don't stop until every child is safe. Director Yunji completed her intelligence gathering in 46 hours. She now knew more about the Vrellan than the Vrellan knew about themselves. She presented her findings to Admiral Taiwan. 14 worlds. Current locations of their military fleet. The research ship holding the children is here. She pointed to a star chart. Taiwan studied the data. Perfect. Begin planning for simultaneous strikes on all 14 worlds. Sir, that's their entire civilization. I know what it is. Billions of civilians. children of their own. Taiwan looked at her. They should have thought of that before taking ours. The 72-hour deadline approached. The Vrelen broadcast a message across all channels. They showed the human children in cells. Little Aaron pressed against the bars, crying. Teacher Myre tried to comfort her students, but she was crying too. A Vrelen appeared on camera. See how weak humans are. These young ones cry for their parents. They beg to go home. This proves our point. They require proper discipline. We will provide it. The broadcast ended. On Earth, people watched in horror and rage. The deadline reached 71 hours. Admiral Taiwan stood on the bridge of his flagship. 847 ships surrounded him in space. All weapons armed. All crews ready. His communicator chimed. Sir, Commander Deo reports his team is in position near the research vessel. Good. Yunji, status? All intelligence teams report ready. We have eyes on every Vrelen world. Dr. Han? Biological weapons loaded and ready for deployment. Taiwan nodded. When we start, we don't stop. Not until it's done. Understood? Everyone confirmed. 1 hour left. Somewhere in space, 23 children huddled together in a cell, wondering if anyone would save them. They had no idea that the entire human species was coming for them, and that the Vrelen were already dead. They just didn't know it yet. Hour 71. 1 hour before the deadline. Commander Dao Yun floated in the darkness of space, his black armor making him invisible against the stars. Behind him, 300 special operators drifted in perfect silence. They surrounded the Vrelen research vessel like ghosts. Inside that ship, 23 children waited. Dao had seen their faces, memorized their names. Aaron, Junho, Nari, every single one. His communicator vibrated once. Admiral Taiwan's voice was quiet. Dao, you are clear to proceed. Bring them home. Understood. Going silent. Dao signaled his team. They moved as one, magnetic boots engaging as they landed on the hull. Cutting tools activated, slicing through the metal with precision. No alarms. The Vrelen didn't even know they were there. Inside the research vessel, 89 Vrelen scientists and guards went about their work. Some monitored the human children. Others prepared equipment for tomorrow's experiments. They felt safe. Their shields were active. Their weapons were charged. No human ship could get close without being detected. They had no idea death was already inside. The hull breach opened. Dao dropped through, his weapon raised. His thermal vision showed him 2 Vrelen guards, 10 meters away. Their backs were turned. He moved, silent, fast, 2 shots. The guards dropped without a sound. His team flooded in behind him. 300 operators spreading through the ship like poison. They had studied the ship's layout for days. Every corridor, every room, every possible hiding spot. Teams 1 through 5, secure the children, Dao whispered. Everyone else, clear the ship. Nothing survives. Teacher Mireille sat in the cell with her students. The children had cried themselves to exhaustion. Now they just huddled together, scared and tired. Aaron was asleep against Mireille's shoulder. Mireille heard something, a soft sound, like metal sliding against metal. The cell door opened. A figure stood there, covered in black armor, weapon raised. For a moment, Mireille's heart stopped. Then she saw the symbol on his shoulder. Human military. We're here for you, the soldier said softly. Stay quiet. We're taking you home. Tears ran down Mireille's face. She started to wake the children, but the soldier held up a hand. Let them sleep if they can. We'll carry them. More soldiers appeared. They moved into the cell, gently lifting sleeping children. Aaron woke slightly, saw the armored figure holding her, and whispered, "Are you the scary nice man?" "Yes," Deho said, his voice gentle despite the chaos about to begin. "I promise to save you. Now close your eyes." She did. She trusted him. Throughout the ship, the Vrellan were dying. They didn't understand what was happening. Operators appeared from nowhere, weapons firing with perfect accuracy. Every shot was a kill. Every movement was precise. One Vrellan managed to reach an alarm. For 3 seconds, sirens blared. Then an operator shot him, and the alarm died with him. 14 minutes. That's how long it took. 89 Vrellan dead. Not one human casualty. The children were loaded onto evacuation pods, still mostly asleep, held safely by operators. Teacher May Ray went with them. "What's happening?" she asked. "We're saving you," an operator replied. "That's all you need to know." The pods launched, accelerating away from the research vessel toward a waiting hospital ship. Deho was the last to leave. He looked around the now silent ship. Vrellan bodies lay everywhere. He felt nothing. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just cold certainty. They had taken children. This was the price. He set charges throughout the ship and departed. As his shuttle cleared 1 kilometer, the research vessel exploded. Nothing remained but debris. "Children secured," Deho reported. "All hostages safe. Rescue complete." Admiral Taiwan received the report on his flagship. He checked his chronometer. Hour 71, minute 53. 7 minutes before the deadline. Status of the children? Medical team confirms all 23 are alive and physically unharmed. They're scared but safe. Teacher Mai Ray is with them. Taiwan allowed himself one moment of relief. Then his face hardened. Good. Now we proceed with the rest. Hour 72. The deadline passed. Taiwan activated fleet-wide communications. All ships, this is Admiral Lee. The children are safe. The Vrellan were warned. They ignored the warning. Now we teach the galaxy a lesson. Target the Vrellan homeworld. Begin extermination protocol. 847 warships turned as one, their weapons charging. The Vrellan military detected the human fleet. Their commanders laughed. Only 800 ships? We have 2,400 vessels. This will be easy. They mobilized their forces, moving to intercept. The Vrellan ships were impressive, large, well-armed. Their shields could withstand tremendous punishment. They had fought many wars, always won. They were confident. That confidence lasted exactly 4 minutes. The human fleet opened fire at extreme range. But these weren't ordinary weapons. These were tools designed over decades of secret research, hidden from the galaxy, waiting for a moment like this. Kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to 75% light speed. At that velocity, shields meant nothing. Mass meant everything. The projectiles hit Vrellan ships like the fist of an angry god. Vessels simply disintegrated. Quantum-entangled munitions detonated simultaneously across entire formations. One bomb became 100 explosions, scattered through space, but connected by quantum mechanics. The Vrellan shields couldn't decide which threat to block. So they blocked none. AI-guided swarm missiles filled space like locusts. Thousands of small weapons, each one thinking, adapting, learning. Point defense systems fired desperately, but for every missile destroyed, 3 more got through. The Vrellan fleet tried to fight back. Their weapons fired, hitting human shields. The shields held. Human armor was simple but effective, dense, redundant, designed by engineers who knew that protection mattered more than elegance. The Vrellan fleet commander broadcast a desperate message. Cease fire. We can negotiate. We can. A kinetic kill vehicle erased his flagship from existence. 43 minutes after the battle began, the Vrellan fleet ceased to exist. 2,400 ships reduced to debris. Not one human ship was destroyed. A few took damage. All remained combat capable. Admiral Taiwan watched the results with cold eyes. Good. Now the surface. The Galactic Council sent frantic messages. Stop. Cease hostilities immediately. The Vrellan military is defeated. There's no need for further violence. Earth's response was simple. We disagree. The human fleet descended on Vrel Prime, the Vrellan homeworld. Cities sprawled across the surface. Billions of civilians looked up at the sky, seeing the human ships, not yet understanding what was about to happen. Taiwan gave the order. Orbital bombardment. Military targets first. Then government centers. Then infrastructure. The fleet opened fire. Precision strikes turned military bases to craters. Government buildings simply vanished. Power plants exploded. Communication centers went dark. But humanity didn't stop there. Dr. Summi's biological weapons were deployed. Atmospheric processors released them into the air. The viruses spread quickly, designed to be non-lethal to any species except Vrellan. Within hours, every Vrellan on the surface became ill. Not dying yet, but suffering. Specialist Yonho Bay activated environmental warfare protocols. Machines on the surface began changing the atmosphere, adding compounds that were poison to Vrellan biology but harmless to others. AI researcher Hannah Song released her nanite swarms, microscopic machines that consumed Vrellan technology specifically. Computers failed. Vehicles stopped. Weapons became useless. The nanites left everything else untouched. The Vrellan ran. They tried to escape underground. They fled to shelters. They begged for mercy. There was none. The Galactic Council sent their fastest ships, carrying ambassadors. They arrived at Vrel Prime to see a world dying. Please. They broadcast. Stop this. They are defeated. This is genocide. Admiral Taiwan responded personally. Yes, it is. Your point? You can't do this. It violates every galactic law, every standard of civilized warfare. Taiwan's face appeared on their screens. They took our children. They said they would break their minds, make them slaves. So we are erasing the Vrellan from existence, completely, totally. This is not warfare. This is extermination. But the civilians, the children, they had nothing to do with. They are Vrellan, Taiwan interrupted. That is enough. The ambassadors watched in horror as human ships systematically destroyed everything on the surface. When the Vrellan tried to surrender, humans accepted the surrender, noted the locations, and killed them anyway. Director Yunji's intelligence was perfect. Every bunker, every hidden base, every escape tunnel. Humans found them all. One Vrellan leader broadcast from a shelter. We didn't know. Most of us didn't even know about the children. Why are you doing this to all of us? The answer came from ground forces. Because you share their biology. Because you are part of their species. Because we want to ensure this never happens again. The best way to do that is to make sure there are no Vrellan left to do it. Within 18 hours, Vrel Prime was silent. The cities were ruins. The atmosphere was poisoned. Nothing moved on the surface. But humanity wasn't finished. There were 13 other Vrellan worlds. Admiral Taiwan split his fleet. Multiple task forces, each one assigned a target. Same protocol on every world. Total extinction. No survivors. The Galactic Council pleaded. They begged. They offered to intervene. to guarantee the Vrellan would never harm humans again. 2. The second Vrellan world died in silence. The third one screamed. The fourth tried to fight back. It didn't matter. The result was always the same. Environmental warfare specialist Junho Bei watched from orbit as his atmospheric processors did their work. The air on the planet below turned from blue to sickly green. Every breath the Vrellan took was poison. They died slowly, choking, confused. "Is it painful?" an officer asked him. Junho checked his readings. Not very. The compounds cause respiratory failure within hours. They lose consciousness first. That's more mercy than they showed our children. Junho nodded. He felt no guilt. The Vrellan had made this choice when they took those kids. Everything that followed was simply consequence. On the fourth world, the Vrellan military tried to organize resistance. They had fortifications, underground bases, stockpiled weapons. They thought they could hold out. Commander Daho's ground forces landed. 300 operators against thousands of Vrellan soldiers. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, every Vrellan fortification was destroyed. Every soldier dead. Daho's team had taken 12 casualties. None fatal. They were patched up and ready to move to the next target. Dr. Sun Mi-han monitored her biological weapons from her laboratory. The viruses worked exactly as designed. Vrellan DNA broke down. Their immune systems attacked their own bodies. Death came quickly for most. She watched the data streams, her face blank. Once, she would have been horrified at what she had created. Now she only felt tired. An assistant approached her. "Doctor, some of the alien species are calling you a war criminal. They say you've created the most terrible weapon in galactic history." Sumi looked at him. "Good. I hope every species in the galaxy knows what happens when you harm human children. I hope they're terrified." She returned to her work, already designing the next virus. Just in case. Admiral Taiwan stood on his flagship's bridge, watching reports flow in. World 5 was clear. World 6 nearly complete. World 7 showing resistance, but it wouldn't last. The Galactic Council had stopped sending messages. They knew humanity wouldn't listen. Instead, they watched, recording everything, building a case for war crimes, tribunals that would never happen. Other species sent their own observers. They needed to see this, needed to understand what humanity was capable of. A Krell diplomat watched the destruction of Vrellan World 8. The Krell were a warrior species, had fought countless battles. But even they were shocked. "This isn't war," the Krell observer said. "This is extermination. Complete. Total. They're not even taking prisoners." His companion, a Threnic scientist, clicked her mandibles nervously. "How many Vrellan have died?" "Current estimates are 7 billion, with 8 more worlds to go. And the humans show no signs of stopping." "None." The Threnics was silent for a moment. "What would they do to us if we ever harmed their young?" The Krell didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both understood now. On Vrellan World 9, survivors tried to hide. Thousands fled to caves, to deep underground shelters, anywhere they thought humans couldn't find them. Director Yoonji's intelligence teams located every single hiding spot. Ground-penetrating radar, thermal scanning, seismic sensors. Humans had technology the Vrellan didn't know existed. Strike teams went in. What they found were not soldiers, just civilians. Families huddled together in the dark. A young human soldier hesitated at one shelter entrance. Inside, he could hear Vrellan young ones making clicking sounds. They were scared. His commander saw his hesitation. "They're Vrellan." "Sir, they're children." They're Vrellan," the commander repeated. "That's all that matters." We have our orders. The soldier thought about Aaron, about Junho and Nari, about 23 human kids crying in cells while bugs talked about breaking their minds. He stopped, hesitating. When the strike team left that shelter, nothing inside was alive. The soldier didn't speak for 2 days afterward. But when asked if he regretted it, he said no. And he meant it. The Galactic Council made one final attempt at intervention. They sent their most respected diplomat, a being called Werthil, who had negotiated peace in 100 conflicts. Werthil's ship approached the human fleet at Vrelin World 10. He broadcast on all frequencies. "Admiral Lee, I beg you, please, the Vrelin are beaten. They will never threaten humanity again. Stop this madness." Taiwan's face appeared on screen. "Madness? You think this is madness? What else would you call it? You've killed billions, wiped out entire worlds. This goes beyond justice. This is genocide." "Yes," Taiwan agreed. "It is genocide. Deliberate, planned, executed with precision. We are erasing the Vrelin from existence. But why? The children are safe. The threat is ended. Why continue?" Taiwan leaned forward. "Because words are not enough. We told the galaxy not to harm our children. But words are cheap. So we're providing a demonstration. Something every species will remember for the next 1,000 years. A demonstration?" Werthil's voice rose. "You're slaughtering billions for a demonstration?" "Yes, because the next time someone thinks about taking human children, they'll remember what happened to the Vrelin. They'll remember that an entire species died. And they'll decide it's not worth it. You're monsters." Taiwan's expression didn't change. "We're parents. We're protectors. And we're sending a message that will echo across the galaxy. Don't touch our kids." Werthil tried to argue more, but Taiwan cut the connection. The destruction of World 10 continued without pause. By day 11, 13 Vrelin worlds were silent. Cities destroyed. Atmospheres poisoned. Populations eliminated. Billions dead. Only one world remained. The Vrelin capital, their cultural heart, where their government had been based for thousands of years. The survivors there knew what was coming. Some tried to flee in whatever ships they could find. Human patrols caught them all. No one escaped. Others chose to fight. They armed themselves with whatever they could find. Stood in the streets, defiant. They would die, but they would die with honor. The human fleet arrived. The largest concentration of force they had used yet. 400 ships in orbit around one world. Admiral Taiwan broadcast one message to the surface. "You have 1 hour to evacuate underground. We're going to glass the surface." It wasn't mercy. It was procedure. Even in extermination, humans followed protocols. 1 hour later, the bombardment began. Orbital weapons fired continuously. The surface temperature rose to thousands of degrees. Cities melted. Forests burned. Oceans boiled away. The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. When it stopped, the Vrelin capital world was a ball of cooling glass. Nothing on the surface survived. Nothing could survive. But humans knew about the underground shelters. Knew there were still Vrelin hiding below, hoping to outlast the attack. Ground teams descended. They went deep, finding every shelter, every bunker, every last pocket of survivors. What they found were not warriors. Just people. Scared. Desperate. Begging for their lives. "Please," one Vrelin elder said. "We never wanted this. We disagreed with taking the human young. We had no power to stop it. Why must we die for what others did?" The human team leader looked at the Vrelin. He thought about giving a speech. About justice. About consequences. But what was the point? Because you're Vrelin, he said simply. I'm sorry, but that's enough. They left no one alive. On the 14th day, Director Yunji sent a message to Admiral Taiwan. Sir, we've completed sweeps of all 14 worlds. Total Vrellan casualties estimated at 18,400,000,000. We've detected no survivors. No ships escaped. No hidden colonies. The species is extinct. Taiwan received the report in silence. 18 billion dead. An entire species erased from the galaxy. The largest genocide in recorded history. He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No guilt. Just emptiness. Confirm the data, he said. Make absolutely sure. I don't want a single Vrellan left alive to start this over again. Already done, sir. We're certain. They're gone. Taiwan nodded. Good. Send the final report to Earth. Mission accomplished. He stood from his command chair and walked to the viewport. Outside, the Vrellan capital world hung in space, glowing with residual heat. A tomb for billions. He thought about the children. About Aaron sleeping safely on a hospital ship, having no idea what had been done in her name. Worth it, he whispered. Every single one of them. Worth it. Behind him, his crew worked silently. They all knew what they had done, what they had become. None of them regretted it. The galaxy would remember this. Would remember that humanity had shown what they were capable of when pushed too far. And maybe, just maybe, no one would ever harm a human child again. That was worth 18 billion lives. At least, that's what Taiwan told himself as he gave the order to return home. 6 months after the extinction of the Vrellan species, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 400 species gathered to discuss what humanity had done. The chamber was silent as they watched the complete record. Every world. Every death. 18 billion Vrellan erased from existence in 14 days. Ambassador Minho Kang stood alone in the center of the chamber. Around him, hundreds of alien eyes stared with fear, disgust, and horror. The council speaker, a wise elfin elder, addressed him. Ambassador Kang, the council has reviewed the evidence. Humanity committed genocide, the largest mass killing in galactic history. How do you answer these charges? Minho looked around the chamber. He saw the fear in their eyes. Good. They should be afraid. You're correct, he said calmly. What we did was genocide. Complete. Total. Absolute. We do not deny this. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. They had expected denials, justifications, legal arguments. Not simple agreement. Then you admit to war crimes? The speaker asked. We admit to killing every single Vrellan in the galaxy. We planned it. We executed it. We succeeded. And you show no remorse? Minho's face hardened. Remorse? No. The Vrellan took our children. They threatened to break their minds, to make them slaves. For that crime, their species paid the ultimate price. A Krell representative stood. But billions died. Civilians who had nothing to do with taking the humans. They were Vrellan, Minho replied. They shared the biology, shared the culture, shared the species identity. That was enough. That's insane. Another delegate shouted. You can't kill an entire species because of what a few did. Minho turned to face the delegate directly. Can't we? We just did. And we'll do it again if we have to. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted. Some demanded humanity be expelled from the Galactic Council. Others called for sanctions, embargoes, military action. The speaker called for order. When silence returned, he spoke carefully. Ambassador Kang, you understand the Council must respond. We cannot allow genocide to go unpunished. Then punish us, Minho said. Expel us from the Council. impose your sanctions. But understand this. We will never apologize. We will never regret what we did. And most importantly, we will do it again without hesitation if another species harms our children. You're threatening us? No, I'm stating fact. Harm human children and your species ends. All of it. No exceptions. No mercy. No survivors. This is not negotiable. The vote was called. Should humanity be condemned for genocide and expelled from the Galactic Council? The result shocked me. The motion failed. Not by a small margin. It wasn't even close. Why? Because the delegates had seen what humanity could do. They had watched the Vrelin die, and they were terrified. Better to keep humanity close. Keep them talking. Keep them engaged. Because the alternative was to make an enemy of a species that had proven they would exterminate entire civilizations when angered. Fear won over morality. It usually did. On New Haven Colony, life returned to normal. Or tried to. Teacher Myray stood in front of her classroom again. But there are only 14 children now. 9 had been transferred to other colonies, their families too traumatized to stay. The children who remained were different, quieter. They still drew pictures, but some of the drawings showed soldiers and explosions. Some showed bug-like creatures that haunted their dreams. Erin was one who stayed. She sat at her desk, coloring. She looked up as Myray passed. "Teacher, did the bug people really all die?" Myray hesitated. The truth was complicated. "Yes, sweetie. They did." "Good," Erin said, and went back to coloring. Myray's heart broke a little. 7-year-old children shouldn't feel that way. But Erin had been taken, had been scared, had thought she might never see her family again. Maybe good and bad weren't so simple anymore. Counselor Nario worked with the rescued children 3 times a week. She specialized in childhood trauma. She had treated kids who survived accidents, natural disasters, family tragedies. This was different. These children had been taken by aliens, threatened with mind control, rescued by soldiers who then killed billions. How do I help them? Nari asked her supervisor. How do I explain what happened in a way they can understand? Tell them the truth. People tried to hurt them. Other people saved them. The bad people are gone now. But the way they were removed, the scale of it, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. To a 7-year-old, the important facts are simple. They were in danger. They're safe now. That's all they need to know. Nari wasn't sure she agreed, but she tried. And slowly, the children began to heal. Admiral Taiwan Lee retired from military service 1 month after returning to Earth. He was given humanity's highest honor, the Star of Terra, for decisive action in the rescue of human civilians. He was also investigated for war crimes by Earth's own government. The investigation lasted 3 months before being quietly dropped. No one wanted to set the precedent that protecting human children could be a crime. Taiwan didn't care either way. He moved to a small colony far from Earth, far from politics, far from everything. He spent his days in silence, tending a garden. Sometimes people recognized him. "You're the admiral who killed all those bugs." He would nod. "Thank you," they usually said. He never replied. There was nothing to say. He had done what needed to be done. The cost was irrelevant. Dr. Samihan destroyed all her research. Every biological weapon, every virus, every deadly creation she had made. Then she resigned from xenobiology entirely. She couldn't look at alien species anymore without seeing test subjects, without calculating how to kill them efficiently. She became a gardener on a peaceful world. She grew flowers, created beauty instead of death, tried to balance the scales somehow. It didn't work. The nightmares still came. She still saw Vrellan faces, still heard their screams. Still knew she had killed billions with her creations. But she also remembered Aaron's face. Remembered why she had done it. Some scales couldn't be balanced. You just learned to live with the weight. Commander Dao Yun received medals, commendations, promotions he didn't want. He accepted them all silently, then requested a transfer to colony protection duty. He wanted to be where he could actually guard people, not just kill their enemies. His request was approved. He now commanded the security force for 3 small colonies. Quiet places. Safe places. Sometimes, children asked him about the rescue. Did you really save those kids from the bugs? Yes. Were you scared? Yes. But you saved them anyway? Yes. The children would smile, satisfied. They liked simple heroes and simple stories. Daeho knew the truth was more complicated. But he let them have their simple story. They deserved that much. Director Yoonji Nam continued her work. Intelligence gathering never stopped. Now her job was easier. Every species in the galaxy knew humans were watching. New humans had perfect intelligence. Embassies were more cooperative. Information flowed freely. No one wanted to risk angering humanity by hiding things. Yoonji's network expanded. Soon she knew everything about everyone. Not for conquest, just for protection. If another species even thought about harming humans, she would know. And she would act. Prevention was better than cure. And she had seen what the cure looked like. In the space where Vrel Prime used to orbit, humanity built a monument. A massive structure that took 6 months to complete. It showed human children playing, laughing, running, being kids. Beneath the image, a message in every known galactic language. Here existed the Vrellan Consortium. They harmed human children. This is their memorial and their warning. Children are sacred. Children are the future. Harm the future, and you have no future. This is absolute. Ships passed the monument regularly. Tour guides pointed it out. That's where an entire species used to live. Billions of them. All dead because they took 23 human kids. Passengers would stare in silence. The message was clear. On New Haven, they built their own memorial. Smaller, more personal. It listed the names of the 23 children and teacher Myray, not as victims, as survivors. Ji-won Kim attended the dedication ceremony. She had stepped down as colony administrator. Someone else could handle the peaceful days. She couldn't anymore. She stood before the memorial, reading the names. Aaron Lee, Juno Park, Nari Choi, all of them safe now. Traumatized, but safe. Hyan Park stood beside her. Was it worth it? He asked quietly. Ji-won watched as Aaron ran past, chasing her friends, laughing. The little girl barely limped anymore. The fear was leaving her eyes, slowly but surely. Ask me that question again, Ji-won said, and I'll give you the same answer humanity gave the galaxy. Yes, every time. Without question. Without hesitation. 18 billion Vrellan died. I know. That doesn't bother you? Ji-won turned to face him. It does. It should. But then I remember what they planned to do. Remember them talking about breaking children's minds. Making them slaves. And I stopped being bothered. Hyan nodded slowly. He understood. They stood in silence, watching the children play. The galaxy had changed. Every species now knew what humanity would do. The price they would pay. Some called it evil. Others called it justice. Most just called it terrifying. But no species harmed human children anymore. Not one. The lesson had been learned, written in the ashes of 14 worlds. Aaron stopped running and looked back at Ji-won. She waved, smiling. Jiwon waved back.